women for others. X is for Lead X. Lead X.
Down from the hill.
Get a head start into the day's breaking stories and latest reports. Catch RK News on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM, powered by Rappler.com and Voice of America. Stay vigilant. Keep informed. RK News on the voice of the Blue Eagle. Fearless, true, and blue.
Ateneo de Manila. Welcome to RK News on Radyo Katipunan 87.9, the voice of the Blue Eagle. For daily and up-to-date comprehensive coverage, in-depth features and analysis, the latest stories on politics, business, weather, lifestyle, entertainment, and sports. Around the globe, across the Philippines, and down to the hills of Loyola. This is RK News, the premier news source of the Ateneo. Fearless, true, and blue.
Good morning, Ateneans here and abroad. Welcome to Radyo Katipunan News. This is Anthony Perez, and here are the top stories for Thursday, November 7, 2019. Magnitude 5.5 earthquake rocks Quezon province. DILG says VP Leni Robredo is an asset to the anti-illegal drug campaign. With Leni Robredo at the helm of anti-drug body, Chel Diokno hopes killings will stop. Dick Gordon to Bureau of Immigration ensure that foreigners entering the Philippines are not involved in illegal drugs. Two lawmakers want mandatory drug tests at House. Citing legit warrants, the ILG says no crackdown on militant groups. A FIVOLX report says there are no expected damages in the early morning tremor. A magnitude 5.5 earthquake struck Quezon province early Thursday morning, November 7, with effects felt as far as Marikina City, according to the FIVOLX. FIVOLX said the tremor, which had an epicenter at Humalig, Quezon, struck at 4:52 a.m. It was of tectonic origin and not expected to cause any damage, according to FIVOLX. The tremor was felt as intensity 4 in Ginayangan, Quezon, and Jose Panganiban, Camarines Norte. It registered intensity 3 in Pili, Camarines Sur, Mauban, Lopez, and Mulanay, Quezon. In Metro Manila, it was recorded at intensity 2 in Marikina City, Navotas City, Quezon City, as well as Malolos City, Gumaca and Dolores, Quezon, Baler, Aurora. Despite that minimal effects, news of the earthquake lit up social media. Early risers made the hashtag EarthquakePH trend before sunrise. The agency identifies the aspects of ICAD's work where Vice President Leni Robredo could put to use her years of experience working with grassroots organizations. The DILG said VP Leni Robredo would be an asset to the anti-illegal drug campaign after she accepted President Duterte's offer to be co-chair of the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs, or ICAD. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said Robredo has the competency to address the need to reduce public demand for illegal drugs, citing her work in government and with various organizations and sectors over the years. The DILG, along with the DOH and DSWD, leads the Illegal Drug Demand Reduction Campaign. The DILG oversees local anti-drug abuse councils and their operations. Malaya said the DILG identified the following areas where VP Leni Robredo could help with: comprehensive barangay-based drug reduction program, functionality of Barangay Anti-Drug Abuse Council, advocacy campaign on anti-illegal drugs, campaign to remove government employees who are involved in illegal drugs. And Malaya said these are some of the functions of the ICAD, but they are open to fresh ideas from VP Robredo. He reiterated that the ICAD is the cabinet-level committee that runs the anti-illegal drug campaign, and that if VP Robredo fails in doing the job, the entire campaign will fail as well. According to Malaya, Interior Secretary Eduardo Año had told all the attached agencies of the DILG to provide the necessary assistance to Vice President Leni Robredo. Under Vice President Robredo's leadership, we hope that the killings will stop and the government will finally take a better approach to the problem of illegal drugs, says human rights lawyer Chel Diokno. Human rights lawyer Chel Diokno on Wednesday, November 6, called Vice President Leni Robredo's designation as co-chair of the ICAD an opportunity to correct the so-called war on drugs unleashed by the Duterte administration. Under VP Robredo's leadership, we hope that the killings will stop and the government will finally take a better approach to the problem of illegal drugs, Diokno said in a statement. Diokno is part of the Free Legal Assistance Group, the lawyers group that questioned the PNP's war on drugs before the Supreme Court. Diokno said the anti-drug campaign has been a one-sided attack against the poor rather than a war against drug syndicates. But now that Robredo has accepted President Duterte's offer, Chel Diokno urged the ICAD to use all of its powers to identify, gather evidence, and prosecute drug lords and those in power who are protecting them. Diokno suggested that the interagency committee start with the large shipments of shabu that slip past the Bureau of Customs. Diokno said the ICAD must recognize the global nature of the illegal drug problem and work with other countries and international agencies to identify and monitor the manufacturing and distribution of illegal drugs. He also urged the government to start treating drug addiction as a health problem and not a crime. Solving the drug problem, or any other social problem for that matter, does not require the police to act inhumanely. It needs just solutions that respect human life and dignity, Chel Diokno added. Almost all shabu smuggled into the country comes from China under the control of Chinese nationals. This problem is so serious, says Senator Richard Gordon. To reduce drug supply in the country, Senator Dick Gordon said the Bureau of Immigration should make sure foreign nationals who enter the Philippines are not involved in illegal drugs. Gordon made the recommendation when he sponsored Committee Report 17 before the Senate plenary on Wednesday, November 6, which recommended the filing of criminal charges against resigned top cop Oscar Albayalde and the 13 ninja cops tagged in an anomalous anti-drug operations in 2013. The Bureau of Immigration must ensure that all those who enter our country are those whose intentions are not criminal nor degenerate, Gordon said in his sponsorship speech. Gordon, citing previous cases of high-profile drug operations, said many of these operators came from China. He added that Chinese drug lords even hold court in Bilibid, making the National Penitentiary a virtual stock exchange of shabu, and Filipinos as their employees and enablers. For example, the Bureau of Immigration should look into why there are always Chinese nationals involved in the drug trade, Gordon said. We cannot sit idly by and allow this to happen. Almost all of shabu smuggled into the country comes from China, under the control of Chinese nationals. This problem is so serious that this needs more intensive investigation, Gordon added. The Interior Department on Wednesday said they would be pursuing administrative charges against the 13 ninja cops, but Albayalde was not included among the respondents. If the government is serious about fighting illegal drugs, then its officials should be willing to get tested for drug use, say Congressmen Elpidio Barzaga and Robert Ace Barbers. If the government really wants to rid the country of the drug menace, then its officials should have no problem subjecting themselves to a drug test, a lawmaker told a congressional panel on Wednesday, November 6. Listening to a briefing by the PNP and VPDEA on the status of the Duterte administration's war on drugs, Cavite 4th District Representative Elpidio Barzaga said he would file a resolution requesting all congressmen to submit themselves to random drug testing. He would also urge the DILG to cover all governors, mayors, barangay captains, and other local officials to be tested for illegal drug use. Barzaga said to prove a point to the public. Kasi minsan ang sinasabi ng ating mga kababayan, yung aming barangay captain, kung minsan yung mayor ay drug dependent. And in order to eliminate this suspicion coming from the public, kinakailangan talagang ipakita ng mga nanunungkulan na sila ay hindi gumagamit ng droga. Barzaga told reporters after hearing of the House of Representatives Committee on Dangerous Drugs. Insofar as our congressmen and women are concerned, ganoon din minsan ang perception ng ating mga kababayan. Puro kayo anya against drugs, mayroon naman kayong mga kasama dyan na mismong drug dependent, he added. Barzaga would not be the first congressman to make such a proposal. The House of Dangerous Drugs Committee Chairman Surigao del Norte's 2nd District Representative Robert Ace Barbers filed a resolution in 2018 requiring all House members, their legislative staff, and all other people who work at the House to submit to a mandatory drug test. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya says it's the police's job to monitor communist groups. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya denied there was a crackdown on militant groups following police raids on progressive groups' offices in Manila and Bacolod. The search warrants were issued by Quezon City Regional Trial Court Executive Judge Cecilin Burgos Villaverde, even though Manila and Bacolod were out of her jurisdiction. In Bacolod, 56 persons affiliated with Bayan Muna, Kilusang Mayo Uno, Gabriela, and the National Federation of Sugar Workers and other progressive organizations were arrested on October 31. Until November 5, more arrests were made, including 2 members of Gabriela Metro Manila, a kadamay officer, and 3 members of Bagong Alyansang Makabayan. Earlier, Leftist lawmakers responded to red tagging allegations by security officials that leftist groups recruit members that would end up as NPA firefighters, saying it does not necessarily follow and evidence has yet to be provided. In regional news, at least 9 people died on Wednesday night, November 6, after a bus collided with a passenger van in Pamplona, Camarines Sur, according to police. PNP regional spokesperson Maria Luisa Calubcakib said a passenger bus with plate number EVP 129 collided with a passenger van with plate number EVU 222 around 8 p.m. on Wednesday at Zone 4 in Barangay San Vicente, Pamplona, Cam Sur. Calubakib said the van driver and 8 passengers, 3 men and 5 women, died on the spot. The driver was identified as Armani Calpe, a resident of Daet, Camarines Norte. 4 other passengers sustained injuries and were rushed to a hospital in Naga City. According to the police report, the collision happened while the bus was heading to Manila. The passenger van, meanwhile, was bound for Daet, Naga. The bus driver, Leonardo Camus, voluntarily surrendered at a municipal police station in Libmanan, Kamsur. Both vehicles were reportedly damaged. Investigation is still ongoing as of posting. Here now is our weather alert of the hour. Tropical storm Kiel remained almost stationary over the West Philippine Sea on Wednesday evening, November 6. In a bulletin issued 11 p.m. on Wednesday, Pag-asa said Kiel is 435 kilometers northwest of Coron, Palawan and Harlid moving. The tropical storm continues to have maximum winds of 75 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 90 kilometers per hour. It is likely to intensify into a severe tropical storm within 24 hours. Kiel remains unlikely to make landfall in the country, and there are no areas under tropical cyclone wind signals. But Kiel and the tail end of a cold front will continue to affect parts of Luzon and the Visayas on Thursday, November 7. We would like to thank Rappler.com for providing Radyo Katipunan with this morning's local news. Up next is our international news segment brought to us by Voice of America. Once again, this is Anthony Perez reporting for RK News. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great first day ahead.
Not an exaggeration when we say that Delhi became a toxic gas chamber.
We will take you to what has been the most polluted city in the world. This is Thursday, November 7th, and this is VOA Asia. I'm Ira Melman in Washington. You can be part of that program. The invitation is out. Just join us on VOA Asia Facebook. Also ahead, many say the United States did not treat the ASEAN meeting with respect, and you will hear how dangerous it is in the south of Thailand. All of that and more on today's VOA Asia. In the Indian capital of New Delhi, authorities declared a public health emergency this month as air pollution levels hit hazardous levels, a problem that the city wrestles with in winter months when stagnant winds and cooler temperatures hold the toxic air over the city. Doctors warn that the dirty air is extracting a serious toll on the health of the city's 20 million residents. Palki Sharma is the executive editor and anchor of We on TV, one of the largest English-language TV networks based in New Delhi. She joins us now by telephone. Palki, how bad is the air in your city?
So right now things are much better, but on Sunday it was very bad. It was hazy. You could feel it in your eyes. If you stood on top of a building, you could feel that the smog was so thick you could cut it with a knife into pieces. People did not go out. Playgrounds were empty. Schools had to be shut. It was very bad. It's not an exaggeration when we say that Delhi became a toxic gas chamber.
You had a scathing editorial-type piece on one of your broadcasts yesterday on WeOn. Tell us something about what you had to say in that.
Paint a very good picture of India or Delhi when your national capital is breathing this kind of air, and we cannot provide, after 70 years of independence, something as basic as clean air and clean water to our people.
What else can the government do to help the situation?
A lot. The government can do a lot. Another thing that I mentioned in my editorial yesterday was that the government and all the agencies together seem to be guilt-tripping people by saying, do not burn firecrackers on Diwali, do not use private vehicles, but we do not have a very robust public transport system. So the people who have to go to work, the people who have to go to hospitals, the people who have to send their children to school, they have to use something to commute. And the buses and local trains are not enough, not nearly enough to deal with the load. So people drive cars and people ride bikes. And yes, vehicular traffic contributes to 40% of pollution, and passenger cars make 10% of this emission. So yes, this is a problem. But to solve it, you have to provide alternatives to people. So the government can do that. The government can ensure that they act before things become so bad, because this has become an annual tradition now.
You are raising a family in New Delhi. How has it affected you?
Well, I do not remember a time when every room in your house had air purifiers. We are actively looking for plants to keep in our house. I have two young children, and I'm very worried about the kind of life they're leading in the capital. There are lots of opportunities here, but at the same time, if you're breathing this air, then, one report says that this toxic air is cutting the life expectancy of each individual by 7 years. Another report said that cancer cases are up by 300% in India. 1.5 million people are dying because of pollution-related diseases every year in this country. This is bigger than terrorism. This is bigger than anything that you can inflict on a people. So I'm very worried. There are many complex problems, but there has to be a solution. Artificial rain is one, though the people are divided on that. We can have more trees. We can ensure that the farmers are subsidized and given better alternatives. A lot can be done, but the problem is that most of the political leaders remain in denial. We've had union ministers tweeting things like eat carrots and broccoli to ensure that you evade the ill effects of pollution. This is how seriously they take this, and I don't know how much action can we expect.
Palki Sharma is the executive editor and anchor of We on TV, one of the largest English-language TV networks based in New Delhi. We invite you to read more on our top story by following us on Facebook, VOA Asia, and the voanews.com website. These are among the top Asia headlines. The dollar fell against the Japanese yen and drifted lower versus other currencies on Wednesday, with the markets in consolidation mode, investors seeking more clarity about the ongoing U.S.-China trade negotiations. The U.S. was very encouraged by a recent meeting between the leaders of South Korea and Japan, according to a senior U.S. diplomat, amid heightened tensions that could undercut three-way security cooperation on North Korea. A Bangladeshi plan to burn more coal for power will worsen global warming in a nation already battered by climate crises from floods to cyclones, according to a report that went out on Wednesday. About 3% of that country's power comes from coal that plans to build 29 coal-based power plants for the next 2 decades. VOA Asia continues. U.S. President Donald Trump sent a low-ranking delegation to important summits with Southeast Asian leaders this past week, triggering concerns about Washington's commitment to the region as a strategic partner. White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara has the story.
On the world stage, showing up matters. At this week's East Asia and ASEAN summits, President Trump did not attend, nor did he send his Vice President or Secretary of State. Adhering to diplomatic protocol, Southeast Asian leaders did not show up for the U.S.-ASEAN meeting either, sending their foreign ministers to meet National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, Trump's special envoy for the summits.
As he said in his letter, President Trump wants to assure you of the rock-solid American commitment in word and deed to our friends, allies, and partners in ASEAN.
O'Brien extended Trump's invitation to Southeast Asian leaders to a summit in the U.S. early next year. Brian Harding is the Southeast Asia Program Fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
I'm sure they'll take the invitation seriously. There is an interest in the United States being more deeply engaged and for making a joint trip to the United States.
Until then, critics say Washington's viewpoint is missing on regional negotiations, including on free trade, where China is dominating. A new economic agreement initiated by Beijing is underway at the summit. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, is expected to launch next year. It will account for a third of global gross domestic product and nearly half the world's population. Lei Yucheng is the Chinese Vice Foreign Minister.
It definitely will play a crucial role in promoting regional economic integration and cooperation across the board, especially on trade and investment.
Another multilateral deal, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, is also moving along without Washington. The Trump administration prefers bilateral trade agreements, but has not yet struck any in the region. Brian Harding of CSIS.
Japan has really slow-walked the bilateral trade negotiations as much as they can. Vietnam, who seem to be a possibility, is just not interested. The Philippines is not interested. They look at how the United States has treated its closest allies and partners, Canada, Mexico, Europe, Korea, and they don't want anything to do with it.
Meanwhile, the trade war between the U.S. and China continues to worry ASEAN leaders. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, White House.
Happening now in Asia, Vietnam could explore legal action among various options in its territorial dispute with powerful neighbor China in the South China Sea. That according to a senior government official. Frictions have grown between the two communist-run nations since Beijing in July sent a ship for a month-long seismic survey to an area internationally designated as Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. Today, November 8th, marks the third anniversary of Donald Trump's 2016 election as the 45th President of the United States. Trump remains a force of nature in American politics, but the third anniversary of his rise to power comes at a time when he's facing the gravest threat yet to his presidency, an impeachment inquiry led by congressional Democrats over his efforts to pressure Ukraine to investigate political rival Joe Biden. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone has more from Washington.
3 years have passed since that November night when Donald Trump shocked the world with his election as the nation's 45th president.
To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
That early appeal for unity faded long ago.
But the more America achieves, the more hateful and enraged these crazy Democrats become.
Trump is now counting on his loyal base of supporters to first withstand impeachment and then carry him to re-election next year.
At stake in this fight is the survival of American democracy itself. Don't kid yourself. That's what they want. They are destroying this country, but we will never let it happen, not even close.
The impeachment probe in the House is focused on Trump's alleged efforts to pressure Ukraine to investigate political rival Joe Biden. Biden has made Trump the issue in his bid to win the Democratic Party's presidential nomination next year.
He talks about there will be a civil war. This is the guy that's unhinged. He is unhinged. I worry about what he's going to do, not about me or my family. I worry about what he'll do in the next year in the presidency.
Like so much in Trump's presidency, the impeachment inquiry is playing out along party lines, says analyst John Fortier.
For Democrats, they believe the president has done something wrong, and they think they're going to bring out more evidence. And I think their hope is that that will turn public opinion against the president, perhaps allow him to be removed. Republicans, I think, are looking at past precedent to say this could be something that backfires on Democrats, or at least doesn't catch fire.
Polls show Trump's approval rating at just above 40%, historically weak for an incumbent president trying to fight off impeachment and seeking re-election at the same time. But underestimating Trump's hold on his political base is dangerous, says Republican strategist John Feary.
Are the Washington pundits, is everyone inside the Beltway missing it about Trump? Absolutely. They don't have any clue this guy's real appeal at a visceral level. But one of the reasons why they support him is because he keeps his promises and he's got the economy going.
Even if Trump is eventually impeached by the democratically controlled House, he would likely survive an impeachment trial in the Republican-controlled Senate, says analyst William Galston.
I have believed since the very beginning of impeachment talk, which started up more than a year ago, that if the Democrats are to remove President Trump from office, it will have to be through the electoral process in 2020. Nothing that I've seen so far inclines me to change my mind in the slightest.
3 years into the tumultuous presidency of Donald Trump, Americans are now girding themselves for the prospect of both a partisan battle over impeachment and perhaps the most fiercely contested election in recent memory. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
Coming your way, a massacre of government forces in Thailand. This is VOA Asia.
VOA Asia Facebook is the choice of millions to see and read the latest stories about Asia and the United States. Follow us on VOA Asia Facebook. VOA Asia is also on Twitter and YouTube. Subscribe to all of our platforms for free. See, hear, read, and share all the latest from VOA Asia anytime. VOA Asia is your trusted source for news, information, and great features.
A news update from VOA Asia. China and France signed contracts totaling $15 billion during a visit by President Emmanuel Macron, that according to a Chinese government officials. Deals were struck in the fields of aeronautics, energy, and agriculture, including approval for 20 French companies to export poultry, beef, and pork to China. This is VOA Asia. Gunmen in insurgency-racked southern Thailand killed 15 village defense volunteers and wounded 5 security personnel in what is believed to be the deadliest attack on government forces since the separatist rebellion began 15 years ago. VOA's Jeff Custer has more.
A Thai Army spokesman said bloodstained clothing found at the scene suggested that some of the attackers on 2 checkpoints in Yala province late Tuesday night also may have been wounded in the exchanges of gunfire. The spokesman added 4 of the slain officers were women and 1 was a doctor. A senior police official described what appeared to be a coordinated attack. Nails were scattered on a highway to disable vehicles entering Yala. A small explosive device was found near an electrical pole to knock out power, and several burning tires were left at a school. Thailand's volunteer forces in the south are recruited from villages and receive weapons training from the army, but no salary. They are usually issued shotguns, but often carry personal handguns and only guard their own villages rather than seek to confront the insurgents. Over 7,000 people have been killed since the insurgency erupted in 2004 in Thailand's 3 southernmost provinces, the only ones with Muslim majorities in the Buddhist-dominated country. Muslim residents have long charged that they are treated like second-class citizens, and separatist movements have been periodically active for decades. Heavy-handed crackdowns have fueled the discontent. Jeff Custer, VOA News.
The president of Mexico, Andres Obrador, has rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's call to wage war on organized crime in that country. Trump offered U.S. help in an effort to wipe out drug cartels in Mexico in response to a massacre of 9 U.S. family members on a road in northern Mexico. The Mexican president said Mexico would act with independence and sovereignty in pursuing the criminals behind the attack, but rejected the idea of going after them with arms. VOA's Laticia Hoke reports the increasingly aggressive behavior of Mexican drug lords raises questions about just who controls the country.
A burnt-out vehicle was found by the side of a road with remains of some of the victims. 3 women and their 14 children were traveling in a convoy between the Mexican states of Sonora and Chihuahua when they were attacked by suspected drug cartel gunmen. Trump told Mexico's President Andres Obrador in a tweet that the cartels have become too powerful and it was time for Mexico to wage war on them with U.S. help. Obrador responded that gunning down gang members would not solve the problem.
Of course, we didn't want this to happen, but we do not think that riddling them with bullets, slaughtering, using force, blood, and fire will solve the problem.
Mexico has long battled organized crime, and as gangs became more powerful than the local police, the government deployed military troops to handle them. Despite the effort, killings by cartels have increased. Mexico has registered nearly 250,000 homicides in the last 12 years, many linked to wars between rival drug cartels. Mexico's interior minister said the massacred U.S. family may have fallen victim to a turf war between 2 groups.
The convoy, composed of 2 suburban vans, may have been confused for criminal gangs that fight for control in the region.
Powerful drug lords are believed to have divided Mexico into areas of control, and there are allegations of collusion between local police and gangs. The country's central government appears to be no match to these entrenched and ever more powerful armed groups. U.S. Senator Mitt Romney, a rare Republican who sometimes criticizes Trump, said Tuesday the president is right to demand action against Mexican criminal groups near the U.S. border.
We have a good relationship with Mexico, and yet what's happening along the border with regards to these cartels and the increasing level of violence is a real concern to us and I think to the Mexican government and how to deal with it. This has been something that Mexico's been working on for a long, long time, and there's still a problem and it's getting worse. And so the president says, look, let's get serious about it, and has indicated that he'd be willing to help, and I think that's the right sentiment.
Mexico's president said he wants to talk to Trump about cooperation in the fight against organized crime, but also preserve Mexico's sovereignty. Laticia Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
This news break from VOA Asia, China's vice premier said Wednesday that Beijing supports more aggressive measures to tackle the unrest that has roiled the Chinese-ruled city of Hong Kong for more than 5 months. At a meeting with Hong Kong's embattled leader Carrie Lam, he said anti-government protests were damaging the one-country, two-system formula under which the city has been governed. A bakery located in a suburb of Long Island, New York, is being held as a symbol of interfaith harmony by the local population and the media. VOA's Anshuman Aptev visited the bakery and spoke to its Pakistani-American owner to find out why people of different faiths are attracted to it.
When the previous owner of Beach Bakery Grand Cafe decided to sell it a few years ago, the news concerned residents of Westhampton Beach, home to area's large Jewish population. After all, the bakery had been serving their dietary needs for almost 3 decades.
Since my family is kosher, we appreciated that because there's no other kosher place in the area.
The Jewish community was concerned if the new owner would keep kosher or abide by Jewish dietary restrictions. But Rashid Suleri, who bought Beach Bakery Grand Cafe in 2018, met with community members and assured them he would do just that.
I gave a speech in the local synagogue. About 800 of their members listened to what I had to say. It was also being broadcast live to almost 4.1 million other viewers. We have their certificate, and anybody can come and see if we are kosher or not.
While Rashid kept the bakery kosher by adhering to kashrut, the Jewish dietary laws, he also ensured that the food preparation met the halal standards as per his own Muslim faith.
The main difference between kosher and halal food comes from the way meat is handled and prepared. So we decided to get rid of meat from our menu. So when you are not serving meat, the dairy and vegetarian products, if they meet the kosher requirement, they are automatically halal. The other challenging thing was the alcoholic drinks. So we decided to get rid of them too.
After the changes, along with its large Jewish customer base, the area's Muslim community started visiting the bakery in large numbers.
When my kids heard about this place, we felt that we should all pay a visit.
Most of the stuff that's here, you can't find it in a lot of the places. It shows the open-mindedness of this community.
They meet each other and have conversations. They try to understand each other. And that's why the bakery is well regarded in this community.
With its kosher and halal food, the Beach Bakery Grand Cafe has become an example of religious integration in West Hampton Beach area. But for owner Rashid Suleri, like any other popular eatery, the mouth-watering food is the best reason to visit his cafe. Anshuman Apte, VOA News.
David Karjam remembers exactly.
Imagine being paralyzed by a stroke for years. Some researchers at the University of Southern California's Keck School of Medicine are trying to help in ways that traditional physical therapy cannot, by connecting the brain to the computer and using virtual reality. VOA's Elizabeth Lee has more from Los Angeles.
David Karjam remembers exactly when his life changed forever.
It was actually 10 years, 3 months, and 3 days ago.
That's when Karjam experienced a stroke while driving. He was able to pull over and get help, but the left side of his body was paralyzed. While traditional physical therapy helped a little initially, brain-computer interface and virtual reality are helping him regain movement more than 10 years after his stroke.
If somebody can't move their arm in the real world, we can augment that in the virtual world and take their body's attempt to move and make it seem like they're moving in the virtual world.
Occupational therapist and neuroscientist Sukli Liu says when someone has a stroke, there is a blockage in the brain that cuts off blood flow. But virtual reality through brain-computer interface may help encourage the brain to find new routes and bypass the blockage. In this study, electrodes are placed on the scalp and on the arm muscles. They're connected to the computer and this virtual world. The user has to try to move this virtual arm with their real arm or with their mind.
We hope that showing them a virtual arm that moves, that maybe they can feel like is a little bit of their own body, that helps to reinforce and kind of reward the motor attempt. And then it should strengthen the brain activity related to controlling motor abilities.
Karjam says working with a virtual arm has helped him extend his arm and move his wrist and fingers.
It's improved my walking ability.
But Karjam says the positive effects of a session like this only last for a few months. Researchers are working on a more portable version of this technology for participants to take home and continue studying how brain-computer interface and VR can help stroke patients gain a better quality of life. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News, Los Angeles.
You've been listening to VOA Asia. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our director, Tracy Carter, our engineer, Zineb Abdelrahman, and our managing editor, Diane Gao, with our VOA Asia team of Jim Stevenson, Keith Lane, and our interns, Hai Young and Afra. I'm Ira Melman in Washington. Have a wonderful day ahead.
This is RK News, the premier news source of the Ateneo. For daily and up-to-date comprehensive coverage, in-depth features and analysis, the latest stories on politics, business, weather, lifestyle, entertainment, and sports. Around the globe, across the Philippines and down to the hills of Loyola. This is RK News on Radyo Katipunan 87.9, the voice of the Blue Eagle.